Begin at the Mishnah on Daf Mem Hey Amud Beis. This is another Mishnah here discussing halachas of Tikkun Olam, but we're coming back over here to the halachas of Gittin, about a person that's divorcing his wife. Sagt Heilige Mishnah, Hamoitzi es ishtoi mishum shem ra. A person that divorces his wife because of a bad rumor that she was mizana, she had a relation with someone else. So lo yachzer. If he divorces her for this reason, and as we'll see in the Gemara, according to one pshat at least, he makes it clear that he's divorcing her for this reason. So there's a takana of Chazal that he's not allowed to ever remarry her. Similar, mishum neder, if he divorces his wife because she took upon herself a vow, and the husband says, "I can't live with a wife that has these vows," and so on. It's destroying their shalom bayis. Lo yachzer, he can't then remarry her. Okay, so there are two pshatim, as we'll see in the Gemara, why Chachamim were misaken that he shouldn't remarry his wife. One is, the Gemara will say, is because of a kilkul. Because what could happen is, if he divorces her for this reason, and then she goes and gets remarried, and then the husband finds out that this rumor wasn't even true, or the vows that she took upon herself, it could have been undone, could have in different ways you could be mater on neder. So he's going to go and say that, wait, the whole get that happened was never really a get. I only divorced her because I thought that she was mizana, I thought that she had vows, but now that I find out that it's not even true, so this whole get is not a get. Meanwhile, his ex-wife got married to someone, had children, and now that he retroactively undoes this whole gedishin, so it comes out that the children that were born were from a marriage, they were the children of mamzerim, because really the previous get was not a get. So we don't want the husband to have the ability to do such a thing. So Chacham wa Misakin, that if you're divorcing her, it's the end. You can't. So you think this over well, right. And therefore, if he's ready to divorce her, it means that he thought about it because he knows Chacham are not going to allow him to get remarried. And he can't come later and say, I only divorced her because I thought that she made a vow or because I thought she was mizana. You know that you can't remarry her. So if you decided to divorce her, it means that you didn't like her. That's why you divorced her. So it's unconditional. That's one pshat in the Gemara. Another pshat in the Gemara is that this is actually a penalty. It's a knas for the woman here. Because there's a rumor about her that she was mizana, so whether it's true or not, she was not behaving appropriately. That's how this rumor happens. And if she made the nedarim, she made a neder, so this is also not something that's okay. Chacham don't want the woman to make a neder. What's a woman doing? Making her own nedarim. She's living with her husband, she takes upon herself nedarim, it causes problems, shalom bayis. It's not a good idea to make nedarim. So this is actually a knas for her, that if her husband is divorcing her for this reason, so then she should know that this will cause that she will not be able to go back to her husband again. Those are the two pshatim. Now let's see how this plays out in the other opinions that are brought here in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says as follows: Kol neder sheyadu by rabim. If it's a neder that she made publicly, then lo yachzer. Then the husband divorces her and she can't get remarried to him. But if it's a neder that was not made in public, so then he could remarry her. So Rashi explains that Rabbi Yehuda holds that a neder that's made in public, you cannot nullify this neder. So there's no concern over here. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold of the pshat that I said before of kilkul, that maybe later we'll find the husband will claim that I didn't mean to divorce my wife. Because over here this is a neder. If it's a neder sheyadu by rabim, it's a neder that you can never be mater. So the neder is staying as is. But what's the thing over here? Why can't the husband marry her again? It's a knas for the isha. And that's dafka when she made it berabim. She's going publicly making these nedarim. That's a big pirza. That's something that she's not only accepting upon herself nedarim, but she's doing this publicly. Over here, Chachamim gave her the knas. But if it's something that was done privately, and over here, this is a kind of neder actually that she could nullify these vows. Maybe the husband himself could nullify it, or maybe a chacham could nullify it. So over here, for this, Chachamim did not give her a knas. It's not such a valid, it's not such a strong neder. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Okay, Rab Meir says, regarding the nedarim of this woman, it depends what kind of a neder it is. Kol neder shetzarech akiras chacham lo yachzer. If this is a neder she took upon herself, and it's a neder that the husband cannot nullify for her, you must go to a chacham to nullify this for her. Remember, we learned in the Gemara nedarim that a husband cannot nullify all of the nedarim for his wife. It's only certain nedarim that shabeino lebeino, or that the different nedarim that the husband can nullify. So if you need a chacham for this, so then lo yachzer, then the husband cannot remarry her. But if it's a neder that the husband himself could easily nullify, you don't have to go to a chacham, so then yachzer. So then the husband could remarry her. And Rashi explains that Rab Meir actually holds the other pshat we said before, that the thing that we're concerned about is a kilkul, that the husband will claim later that I didn't mean to divorce my wife because I didn't realize that I could be mata the neder. So therefore, what Abmeir is saying is that that's a kind of argument a husband could say if you have to go to a chacham. So that's something that the husband may have not realized. He could say, I didn't know you can go to a chacham. I thought that these are nedarim, that I can't be mata, so that's it. Now all of a sudden he realizes that the chacham could find the Pesach to be mata this. So then, Chachamim say, the Chachamim made the gzeiret that the husband will come and argue this, so therefore lo yachzer. But if it's a neder that he himself could nullify, which is easy, simple. On the day that he hears the neder, he right away could nullify it. The husband can't claim, I didn't know that I could nullify this neder. So in such a case, after he divorces her, it's clear that he meant to divorce her because he didn't like her, because he knows he could nullify this neder. So in such a case, yachzer. There's no gzeira of Chazal for this. So therefore, he can remarry her. Rabbi Lazar says, no, the exact opposite svara. Lo yasru zeh ela mipnei zeh. This case of a neder, that only the chacham could be mater, really over there should be no reason for the gzeira of Chazal. And ela mipnei zeh, the only reason why there is a gzeira is because of this case when the husband himself could be mater the neder. So what's Rabbi Yossi saying of, Rabbi Lazar that is. What's Rabbi Lazar saying? Rabbi Lazar is saying 2 points. First of all, this that a husband could be mated the neder himself for his wife is not necessarily something that the husband knows. The husband could argue and say, I didn't know about it, so I didn't mean ever to divorce her, and the whole get is not a get. Number one. Number two, this that a person can take his wife to a chacham to be mated the neder, Rabbi Lazar holds this is not something that the husband could say, if I would have known, I would have taken my wife to a chacham to be mated the neder. Why not? Because to take your wife to a chacham to be mated the neder is a degrading thing. It's an embarrassing thing. You have to go to chacham and with your wife and tell her, look what the darim she's making, and to figure out a Pesach and a situation of why it destroyed the shalom bayis and why it could be mated the neder. So the whole thing is a degrading process. And a husband, we know, Rashi says it's a very strong svara, Anan Sahadi, we know that a husband would not be ready to have his wife go through this whole degrading experience, and therefore if he divorced her, he can't come later and say, if I would have known that I can go to a chacham, then I would have done so, and therefore the get is not a get in the first place. We know a husband is not ready to pull his wife, to schlep his wife through this whole ordeal. So therefore, over there's no concern that a husband will come and taina that he would have done so. He would have been mated this neder in this way. So the only reason in a case where he could only be mated the neder with a chacham, that chacham make this gzeira, is because of the kinds of nedarim that she makes that the husband himself could be mater. And there we could argue that if I would have known that I could have been mater it, I would have done so, and the get wouldn't be a get in the first place. The Mishnah brings another story here, another halacha. Omer Rav Yossi bar Rav Yehuda. Rav Yossi bar Rav Yehuda said, Maisa b'Tzidon, there was an incident in the city of Tzidon, be'echad shama le'ishtoi. Person said to his wife, Kainem im eini megarshech, that I take upon myself, the husband says, and neder, that world Gemara will say, he says that the paytas of the world will be asar on me if I don't divorce you. In other words, he was so angry at his wife and he wanted to be sure that he was going to divorce her, so he takes upon himself, he says, I'm making a neder to not have a no if I don't divorce you. And the girsha, and then he went ahead and he divorced her. The chachamim allowed the husband to remarry his wife if he wants, because of tikkun olam. So this is something that needs to be explained. The Gemara will explain what's the connection of this story to the halachas of the Mishnah. It seems to be a story which is different than what the Mishnah spoke about. The Mishnah spoke about a situation where a person's wife made a neder. Here it's speaking about the husband that takes upon himself a neder if he doesn't divorce his wife. And what's the tikkun olam here? That also, okay, we'll see. The Gemara will explain. Sagt the Gemara, Amar Rav Yosef bar min Yomi, Amar Rav Nachman. V'hu sha'amar la, that this whole halacha of the Mishnah, that Chachamim made a takana, that the husband, that once he divorces his wife for these reasons, that he can't remarry her. V'hu sha'amar la mishum shemra ani moitziacha. That's if at the time of when he gave her the get, he clearly said that I'm divorcing you because of this shemra, because of the bad rumor about you, or mishum neder ani moitziacha, because of this neder that you took upon yourself, I'm divorcing you. He has to say that clearly. So the Gemara explains, what does this mean? What's Rav Nachman really saying here? Kasavar, this is because Rav Nachman holds, time emai, what's the reason why Chachamim said that he shouldn't remarry his wife? Mishom kilkula, because we're afraid that if he has this option, so then there'll be a big kilkul. As So, as we explained before, this kilkel that will happen. The husband said, "Look, I said I'm only divorcing you for these concerns that I have, but I realized now that it wasn't a problem." So therefore, what Rav Nachman is saying is, "Iyam Allah hachi," if the husband at the time of the divorce says clearly that I'm only divorcing you for this reason, matzi mekalkalo. So then that's taka a concern. He said clearly, I'm only divorcing you for this reason. So he could come back later and say that now I found out it's not true. Found out that could be matad in a darim. So he's going to undo the whole Gedishin in the first place. And then there could be a kilkel if she got married to someone else. But v'iloi, if he didn't say anything about this, he just gave her the divorce and he didn't mention a word of why he's divorcing her at the time of the divorce, he can't say so. He can't say that, if I would have known. You didn't say anything at the time of divorce. It's very clear that you divorced her unconditionally. So the whole takana of our Mishnah of lo yachzer, Rav Nachman is saying, is only if he verbalized this at the time of the divorce. That's one pshat, which goes along with this understanding that the tikkun ha'olam here is for the kilkel. Another pshat, ikidamri, Amar Rav Yosef bar Minyaim, Amar Rav Nachman. So the version over here was tzarich sheyem Allah haviyadas, that Chachamim required. Chachamim were misakin that he should tell his wife when he's divorcing her that you should know shemishum shemirani metziacha, I'm divorcing you because of this bad rumor about you, or mishum nedani metziacha, I'm divorcing you because of this neder that you took upon yourself. Right? In other words, so it's not saying over here that only if he said so, then this takana of lo yachzer will apply. It's saying that part of the takana of Chazal that says that he should not remarry his wife is also that the husband should tell his wife at the time of the divorce that you should know that this is the reason why I'm divorcing you. So the Gemara explains, what do we see? What does Rav Nachman hold according to this version? So Kesavar, he holds, time am I, what's the reason why he can't remarry her? Kedei shalayi b'nais Yisrael prutzis ba'arayis u'b'nedarim, that the women of Gittin should not be potters, should not do these things regarding arayis and also regarding the darim. So hilkach tzarech lemeim malahachi. So therefore, this is part of the knas. The husband should notify his wife and let her know what the reason for the divorce is. This happened to you because of your inappropriate behavior. And so it's just like there's the knas of lo yachzer, part of the knas is the tzarech sheyem lo, that he has to tell her this. Okay. It's very interesting over here in this whole entire knas, this inyan, regarding the prutzim ba'arayis, how the Gemara puts together in the same category prutzim ba'arayis and b'nedarim. You may think to yourself, prutzim ba'arayis is a terrible thing. She's having a relation with someone else. B'nedarim, you could put together in the same category the concept of a woman making vows. But it seems like that at least on some level, they're a similar thing. The woman that takes upon herself vows that destroys the shalom bayis. Similar to a woman that is having a relation with someone else while they're married. These are two things that go together. Says the Gemara, Tanya Kelishna Kame. We have an Abraisa that says like the first pshat here in our Mishnah, and the Tanya Kelishna Brasra. And we have another Abraisa that says like the second pshat in our Mishnah. Tanya Kelishna Kame. We learned in Abraisa like the first pshat. Omer Rab Meir explains, why did Chachamim say if a person divorces his wife for this shemra, he should not remarry her? Or mishum neder lo yachzer, the same with a vow, he shouldn't remarry her as well. Says the Gemara, or this brayser rather, shema teilach v'tunas elacher. Because what happens if she gets divorced? Now she gets married to someone else, and v'nimtzu dvarim badon, and comes out that the whole concern the husband has was false. She wasn't mezana with anyone. The vows could very easily be nullified. And v'yayma, now the husband comes and says, Ilu, you see, there's shekain. If I would have known this is the fact, shekainu afilim are you nicely meyamana la yisimegash. Even if someone would pay me for this, I would not divorce my wife. V'nimtza get bottle. So it comes out that now retroactively the get is uprooted. And again, as the Gemara said before, because at the time of divorce he specified, he said that I'm only divorcing you for this reason. She got married to someone, she had children, so then the children are going to be mamzeidim. So this is lefichach oimrim loy. So therefore, we tell the husband when he divorces his wife, you can't remarry her. So if he knows he can't remarry her, so then he can't now come with a taina later that I thought that this is the reason. No, he knows he's not going to be able to remarry her. So therefore, it must be that even if it turns out later that what the reason that he said was not true, doesn't matter. But he probably decided that I want to divorce my wife anyways because he didn't like her, because he knows he's not going to be able to remarry her. That's one brayse, clearly like the first lashon. Tanya Kalishna Basra. Then we have a brayse that says like the second version that we had. Amar Rabbi Elazar bar Rabbi Yosi, mipnei ma omru amoitzi es ishta mishum shem ra lo yachzer mishum neder lo yachzer. Why can you not remarry her in these cases? It's a kanas for her that she should know if she does such a thing, it's going to cause her to get divorced and permanently. So therefore, part of the kanas is also Chachamim tell the husband and Marla. Tell her this. Let her know at the time of the divorce. I'm divorcing you because of this bad rumor. I'm divorcing you because of this neder that you took upon yourself. The next part of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yudah, kol neder sheyadu by rabim lo yachzer, v'shelo yadu by rabim yachzer. So Rabbi Yudah says that when it comes to a neder, so as Rashi explained in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yudah doesn't hold the reason of kilkul. Rabbi Yudah holds that the reason over here is it's a knas for the woman that took upon herself this neder. So, but there's a difference between a neder that's made publicly. Such a neder is a very strong, valid neder. So therefore, Chachamim made the knas that she can't get married again to him. But if it's a neder that was not made publicly, so then this is a neder that could be nullified. So this is something that there's no knas for. So here the Gemara brings a source for this inyan. Where do we see that a neder that's made publicly is something that cannot be nullified? Omer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, my time of Rabbi Yehuda. What's the source from Rabbi Yehuda that you can't nullify this neder? The Chesiv, the pasuk says, "V'loi hikum b'nei Yisrael ki nishbu lehem nisiyei eida." This is a pasuk that speaks about the Givonim. In the times of Yeshua, the Givonim came to convert. And they said that we're not from here, we're not from Eretz Yisrael, we're not part of the 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael. Why did they say so? Because those from the 7 nations, the Yidden wouldn't be makabel them as Gittin. They had to eradicate from all these Shiva Ummahs, they had to kill them all. And they said we came from a different place. And they made a pact and they made a shvuah that you're gonna be safe, we're not gonna touch you can become Gittin. And then it turns out that the whole thing wasn't even true. But it says over there that nevertheless, Yidden did not hit them. Yidden did not touch them. Why? Because they made a shvuah nishbalam nisiyah eda. That means that they made this neder publicly. So therefore, here you see that a shvuah or a neder that's taken publicly, you cannot break it. So that's Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara says that Rabbanan that disagree with Rabbi Yehuda, they'll tell you that Hasam michai l'shvuah levaya klal. You can't say the reason there is because the shvuah took effect, and a shvuah that's made publicly you cannot break. It didn't even take effect at all. Why? Because they lied and said that we came from a distant place. And v'loibo, the truth is they didn't come from anywhere. They were really from the nation of Chivi, which is one of the 7 nations in Eretz Yisrael. So the whole shvuah never took effect. So why didn't Yidden, if so, once they found out that they're not real Gittin and the whole thing was a lie, so why didn't they kill them like the rest of the nations? Mishum Kiddush Hashem. Because of a Kiddush, they wanted it should be a Kiddush Hashem here, because if they're going to kill them, so then Goyim are going to say that, look, the Yidden made a pact with them, and they didn't keep it, they killed them, so just for the reason of Kiddush Hashem. So there's no source from here that a neder or shvuah that's made publicly, that you can't break it, can't nullify it. The Kama Rabbim. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, what's considered to be a neder that's made in front of a Rabbim that you can't nullify this neder? Rav Nachman says Gimel, in front of 3 people. That's a Rabbim. Rabbi Yitzchak Omar Asara. Rabbi Yitzchak says that it has to be 10 people. Rav Nachman Omar Gimel. Rav Nachman's source is that it's 3 people. Where do you see that Rabbim is 3? Because it says Yomim. Yomim, this is by Anida, when she's seeing her omission for, it says there, she sees it for more than 1 day, yomim, plural, that's base, 2 days, and then it says rabbim, many. So the term rabbim means gimel, that she saw for 3 days. So we see that the term rabbim means 3. Same thing here, it means 3 people. Rabbi Yitzchak says 10, the chsiv, Eida. The pasuk that we brought before, the source of Rabbi Yehuda, it says Nisiyeh ha'Eida. Eida means a congregation, which is 10. As Rashi brings it, we learned this out from the Meraglim. The Meraglim were 10 people, and it says there, Ad Masal Eida Ra Zois. So that from there we see that a minyan is 10 people. Okay, going to the next part of the Mishnah. Rab Meir Omer Kol Neder Shetzarech V'Chulu. So Rab Meir says that if it's a neder that you need a chacham to be mat to this, over here we're concerned that the husband would say, oh, I didn't know that I can go to a chacham to be mat to it, and he might undo the whole get in the first place. On the other hand, Rabbi Elazar said in the Mishnah, no, such a kind of a thing, we're not concerned that the husband is going to say that it would have gone to a chacham. Adarabah, we're concerned in the case where he could nullify the neder, that he's going to argue and say, oh, I didn't know that I could nullify the neder. So Tanya in the Brayso we learned, Basically, like it says in our Mishnah, that the case where you need a chacham to be matter the neder, really there should be no reason for chacham to make a takana that the husband might argue that I didn't know I can go to the chacham. We're not concerned of that. They only made exeded there because of the case in a case where he himself could be matter the neder. So the Gemara explains, what's the basis of the argument? And I explained it already when we learned the Mishnah. So the Gemara spells it out. A person is ready to have his wife be disgraced in a bezdin to nullify her nidara. So therefore, this is a taina. The husband may come later and say that if I would have known, I would have taken my wife to a bezdin, and this will undo the whole get. So there's a problem here. So Chacham made the takana here that he should know that he could never remarry her. But we know for a fact, Anan Sahadi, we know for a fact that a husband will not have his wife go through this, and this is B'chlal not a taina. He comes and says this, it's like we have Adam saying that he's lying. And therefore this is B'chlal not a taina to undo the get. So we don't have to make any takana that he can't remarry her, because there's no concern that later if she gets married, there could be mamzedim here. And the last part of the Mishnah brought another halacha with a story that happened. And the story was where the husband is the one. The husband made a neder that he's going to divorce his wife. Or basically he took upon himself a neder to ask her something if he doesn't divorce his wife. So the Gemara asks, what did the Mishnah say before that it brings in connection to that, this incident here about the husband making this neder? So it spoke before about an isha that took upon herself an neder. It didn't speak about the husband. Answers the Gemara, so it's missing here in the Mishnah. This is how you have to learn the Mishnah. This whole halacha that he can't remarry her is if she took upon herself nedarim, and that's why he's divorcing her. If the husband is the one that made a neder, if I don't divorce you, and that's what basically forced him to divorce her, so yachser. So then if he divorces her, he will be allowed to marry her again. There's no issue. There's nothing to be chayshish for any kilkul. Rabbi Yehuda said about this, there was an incident with an individual in Sidon. He said to his wife, I take upon myself a neder if I will not divorce you. And then the Girsha divorced her. The Chachamim allowed him to remarry her later. And the Mishnah finishes off Mipnei Tikkun Olam. Okay, so the Gemara now explains, first of all, my kainam. What does this word kainam mean? Rashi says the Gemara is asking, kainam is usually connected to a hektish, regarding a carbon. What kind of a hektish is there over here? Rav Huna explains, no, the kainam here is a neder. All the fruits of the world should be asr to me if I will not divorce you. Okay, then the Mishnah said that in such a case, that he's allowed to remarry her again afterwards. Says, as the Gemara asks him this, pshita. It's obvious. The question of the Gemara is, why not? What would we be concerned about? We explained in the case of when the Isha takes upon herself the neder, what we should be concerned of. That maybe there could be a kilkul, the husband will argue, I didn't know. But if he took upon himself the neder, what kilkul can there be? The husband knows that he could be matir his neder. And the other reason about the knas, is there a knas over here for this? What's the problem? Says the Gemara, yeah, there is. Ma'al deteme, I would think, ligzay mishum de Rav Nosson, that maybe this itself, that he's making a neder, this itself is an issue, and there should be a knas for this. And why is there an issue of making a neder? Because of what Rav Nosson said. Tanya, Rav Nosson said, ha-noider kilu bana bama. Person that takes upon himself a neder, it's as if he built a bama to bring a carbon in a place, in a time after the Beis HaMikdash is built, and you're not allowed to build a bama. So you think you're doing something so good that you're accepting upon yourself a neder, but really it's negative to ask us something when you're not supposed to. Torah said it's mutter, you shouldn't ask it upon you. It's like building a bama. And then if you actually keep your neder, you don't go and you're not mat to this neder, kilo hikr v'aleh carbon. So then the Aveda is even further. You're completing your Aveda by keeping your neder. It's like you brought a carbon outside the Beis HaMikdash. So I would think that over here, since this person not only took upon himself a neder, but he went and he fulfilled it, he went and he gave her a get, so I should give him a knas for this. So therefore, kamash malon, that we don't give him a knas for this. So the last words of the Mishnah, and seemingly on this halacha that we just said about a husband that took upon himself a neder and divorced his wife, so it said that he's allowed to remarry her, and it said mipnei tikkun olam. Says the Gemara, my tikkun olam ikke. What matter are we rectifying in the world in this halacha, in this incident? Rav Sheshes explains, you're right, over here there's no tikkun olam at all. Aresha, the words mipnei tikkun olam goes back to the beginning of the Mishnah, when the wife accepted upon herself a neder, and the husband divorced her. So over there, as the Gemara explained before, the reasons for the tikkun olam for that. Ravina says, lo olam ha-seifa, that mipnei tikkun olam is going over here on the seifa. V'hachi ketani. And this is how you have to understand what the Mishnah is saying. Ein bezu mipnei tikkun olam. That over here, this tikkun olam does not apply because there's no reason to ask it over here mipnei tikkun olam, right? So the Mishnah is saying that in such a case, when he divorced her, v'hitiru lechacham sheyachzirena mipnei tikkun olam, because the Mishnah is really saying there's no issue of tikkun olam over here when a husband divorced her in this kind of a way. Mishnah, another similar concept, a person divorcing his wife for a specific reason. A person divorces his wife because he finds out that she can't have any children. So he married her thinking that she could have children. And in such a case, when he finds out that she can't have children, so it's sort of a mekach tos. So if he divorces her, the halacha actually is he doesn't have to pay her the ksuba money because he didn't know that she was an islandess. But you might think, if so, if it's a mekach tos, what does he need to get altogether? So Rashi explains, because there's a klal ena demaisi bilase bilas nus. If he lived with his wife, so then he didn't do it just as a znus, to live with her without proper marriage. He wants it to be a real marriage either way, whether she could have children or not. So therefore the kedushin took effect. But he's divorcing her for this reason. He doesn't have to give her a ksuba. So Rabbi Yehuda, in such a case, when he divorces his wife for this reason, lo yachzer. He's not allowed to marry her again. And here, this halacha of Rabbi Yehuda is basically the same halacha that we said before because of the kilkul. What happens if this woman gets divorced of him, she gets married to someone else, and boom, she has children. Turns out she's not an islandess. Now the husband will come and say, if I would have known you're not an islandess, I would have never divorced you. So it turns out that she's still married to the first husband. So this is a huge kilkul for the children, for the second marriage. So therefore, Chachamim said, lo yachzer. You can't marry her again. The divorce is complete and done. The Chachamim are not concerned about this kilkul, yachzer. Chachamim say, no, he could marry her again. So over here, Chachamim are not concerned about this that could happen in the future. Nisas what happens if she got married to someone else after he divorced her because of this reason of being an islandess? And she already had children from the second husband, Now she goes back to her first husband and she says, pay me the ksuba money that you owe me, you divorced me. So really she doesn't get this ksuba money because the whole Mekach was a toss. I found out that she was an islandess, he doesn't owe her the ksuba. Rabbi Yehuda, so Rabbi Yehuda says about this is in connection to what Rabbi Yehuda said before. The husband tells her, being quiet for you is better than you speaking up and demanding your ksuba. Why? Because if you're going to demand the ksuba, so then I'll answer you, the whole divorce was not a divorce. Look, you got remarried, and it turns out you have children, so the whole divorce is not a divorce in the first place. And then your children are going to be mamzeidim. So just keep the matter quiet. Don't say anything about this, that I divorced you only because of the fact that you were an islandess. So you're not going to get your ksuba, but your children will be okay. So here in the Mishnah, there's a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim, whether we're concerned about this kilkul, that the husband will come later and say that if I would have known you could have children, I would have never meant to divorce you. So lememre, shall we say that Rabbi Yehuda chayish l'kukula? Rabbi Yehuda is concerned about this, but Rabbanan like chayish l'kukula, and Chachamim are not concerned about this kilkul. But the question is, from the previous mission that we learned, in the previous mission it says the opposite. It's not, because the Mishnah says, a person divorces his wife because of a bad rumor, lo yachzer. Both, whether it's a shemra, whether it's a neder, as we learned before, he should not remarry her again. Chachamim were concerned about this kilkul that may come out if he could marry her again. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda says that kilkul is not the issue. The issue is only the fact that we're giving her a knas for taking upon herself a neder publicly. And therefore a neder that's taken upon herself not publicly, which could be nullified, over there, she could get remarried to him. And there is no concern about a kilkul that could happen in such a case. So Alma Rabbana Chashina L'Kulkula, the Rabbana, which is the Tanakama over there of the Mishnah, they are concerned about a kilkul. But Rabbi Yehuda Lo Chayish L'Kulkula, and Rabbi Yehuda was the one that was not concerned about a kilkul. And in our Mishnah, it says the exact opposite. Rabbi Yehuda is the one that's concerned about the kilkul by divorcing her because she's an islandess, and Chachamim are not. So the first answer the Gemara says is Alma Shmuel Eipach. Says Shmuel that we have to exchange the opinions here in our Mishnah. The Tanakame here is really the Chachamim, and then afterwards comes Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara asks on this, but Vomediktani Seife. But then we have also the end of the Mishnah here. It says, Nisis la'achev v'hoyu lo bonim imena v'hite v'ask subasa. She comes and wants to get her ksube. So over here, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says to her, Omer lo shtikusech yafem midiburech. Being quiet for you is better than speaking up, because if you speak up, then the old divorce may not be a divorce in the first place. So miklal the Rabbi Yehuda chayesh lekukula. It's Rabbi Yehuda speaking here. So I see it's Rabbi Yehuda the one that's concerned about a kilkul. So how could you switch the opinions in the beginning of the Mishnah if it's clearly Rabbi Yehuda? Says the Gemara, Hanami Eipach. It's part of the same Mishnah, and that also has to be switched. It's really Chachamim. Instead of Amar Rabbi Yehuda, it's really Chachamim speaking over here. So that's one shot, that we have to switch the opinions in this Mishnah. Another pshat, Abaye says, Lo'ilam lo tepach. We don't have to switch the opinions in our Mishnah here. And we can explain what Rabbi Yehuda said in the previous Mishnah differently. Rabbi Yehuda, when it comes to the previous Mishnah, so really, definitely, Rabbi Yehuda was concerned about a kilkul. So why over there? So Gemara has now a new explanation for the previous Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda bahi, Savala Karab Meir, and Vesavala Karab Elazar. That in the Mishnah there, so Rabbi Yehuda holds regarding one detail, he holds like Rabbi Meir, and regarding another detail, he holds like Rabbi Elazar. And the Gemara explains over here. In a case where his wife made a neder and he can't nullify the neder, you have to go to a chacham to nullify the neder. So regarding that, he holds like Rabbi Elazar. What did Rabbi Elazar say before? A husband cannot claim after he divorces her in such a situation that if I would have known, I would have taken you to a chacham to be mated the neder. Because anan sahadi, that a husband won't do such a thing. He doesn't want his wife to be disgraced. So Rabbi Yehuda holds of the concept of kilkul. But in a case where only a chacham could be mated the neder, the husband can't even say such a thing that he would have been mated this neder. That's like Rabbi Elazar's opinion. And b'she'ein tzarich, and on the other hand, in a case where the husband himself could be mated the neder, Savala Karab Meir. Over here, he holds like Rab Meir. What does Rab Meir say? A husband can't argue, I would have been mated your neder, because that's something that a husband knows. He knows he could be mated the neder. If he didn't do so, that means he decided to divorce her because he doesn't like her, not because of the nedarim that she made. So yeah, Rabbi Yehuda holds of the concept of kilkul, but in those cases, there is no kilkul, because we don't accept his argument of a kilkul regarding a neder. And Enochanami, regarding the case of when he divorces her because of a rumor of Shemra, of Erve, Rabbi Yehuda would agree that the issue of kilkul will apply. And like he said over here, regarding divorcing her because she's an islandess, the issue of kilkul applies. So there's no stira in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. So the Gemara asks over here on this answer of Abaye, Amar Rava, so Rava asks on him, did Rabbi Yehuda kashya? The contradiction in Rabbi Yehuda's opinion, that's a question. The Rabbanan loy kashya. The contradiction in Rabbanan's opinion, that's not a question. Why aren't you answering that? In our Mishnah, we see that Chachamim are not concerned for a kilkul. And before, in the Reisha of that Mishnah, the Tanakam, which is the Rabbanan, they were concerned about a kilkul. What's the answer to that contradiction? Ela Amar Rava, so Rava says that Rabbi Yehuda loy kashya kid l'shaninan. Yeah, the answer Abaye said for Rabbi Yehuda, that's a good answer. Rabbanan, ad Rabbanan lekashin. Now the contradiction in Rabbanan's opinion, that's not a question, because man chachamim Rab Meir. Who are the chachamim? The chachamim over here in our Mishnah is Rab Meir. The Amar, Rab Meir's opinion is be'inon tnai kofel. Anytime you do an action, and over here the divorce, and you want this divorce to be dependent conditionally on something that you're verbalizing during the divorce, there has to be a tnai kofel. The tnai kofel means you say that if this condition will be fulfilled, then it should be a divorce. And if it will not be fulfilled, then it will not be a divorce. You have to spell out the hein and the lav, both. Okay, so it has to be a tnai kofel. And over here, by this case of this islandess, what is it speaking about? He did not say very clearly the double tnai, both the hein and the lav, the positive and the negative, and therefore he can't later come and say that this divorce is dependent on this fact that you're an islandess, because if it's not, if you didn't make that proper t'nai, so then it's an unconditional divorce. Okay, well, let's one more piece over here. A person that gets into a habit of selling himself and his children or his children to goyim. So what's the halacha? In the pasuk in Parshas Bahar it says a person that sells him a yid that's sold to a guy, so you have to do everything possible to redeem him from the guy, that he shouldn't get assimilated by the guy. But here, this person is sort of taking advantage of this. He sells himself to a guy, makes money, and then he's waiting for other people to redeem him. It says the Mishnah in Paidenaisa. He did this once, twice. We'll see in the Mishnah, the Gemara. If he did it the third time, so then we don't have to redeem him anymore. But after the father passes away, so then the children we will redeem, because now it's not going to cause the father to do it again. The father's not here, so the children will have to redeem. Rav Asi explains what's our Mishnah speaking about. This is only if the person sold himself once, twice, and then a third time. When it comes to the third time, then we don't have to redeem him. But the first two times we do. Talk to Gemara, Hani b'nei bei Michsi. There were these people from a place called Michsi. The Yasfi Zuzi Ma'ivdi Kechavim. They borrowed money from a guy, and they had nothing to pay him. So what happened? Also, so this guy came and seized them. He captured them to be his slaves. So also they came to Rav Huna, and they asked Rav Huna, should we redeem them from this guy that seized them? Amalahu, so Rav Huna said, what should I do for you? The Mishnah says, that a person that sells himself or his children to a guy, we don't have to go and redeem him. So what Rav Huna was saying is, just like if you sell yourself to a guy, we don't have to redeem you. Over here, if you borrowed money from a guy, and you know you have nothing to pay, so you put yourself in this danger. You put yourself in this situation where now, because you have nothing to pay, the guy is going to come and take you and capture you yourself. So you put yourself in this situation, so we don't have to redeem you. So Rav Abba asked Rav Huna, but our teacher, didn't you teach us that this is only if this happens a third time, then we don't have to redeem it. Over here, this is the first time that it happened. So he answered him, they were accustomed to doing this. So there's two pshatim in the Gemara here. One pshat is that this was the third time as well. So therefore, they don't have to be redeemed. Another pshat is even if it was not the third time, but borrowing money from a guy, knowing that you don't have any way to pay him, is like something that's like ragul. You know that the guy is ragul. You know that the guy, if he's not going to get his money, he's going to take you as an evet. So you should have known the first time that this would have happened. You shouldn't put yourself in such a danger. Therefore, they don't have to redeem him.